Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the new Nvidia Shield for 2017. This is in many ways like the PS4 Slim or the Xbox One S in that you get a smaller version of a console that was released prior. So it is smaller physically, but it does all the same things the old one does and performs pretty much the same. And it really doesn't give you anything that the old one doesn't have, but they have made some physical changes to the product. And actually in some areas they took some things away that are in the old one, and I'll go through some of the differences there. They also made the included game controller a little smaller and a little bit more efficient. It's a little bit lighter too, and they're also now packing in a remote control for your television to make it a little bit more friendlier for home theater watchers and whatnot. So you get all this stuff now for the $199 price tag. This controller used to be an extra charge, although there are some things they took out of the controller as well, and I'll go through all of those differences in just a second. I'm also going to tell you exactly what this box does, because I know a lot of people are probably going to be finding this video looking for information about this product and may want to know what it does. So we will talk about that as well in the course of the review here. So before we get into this though, I do want to mention that I purchased this with my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. Although in the past, Nvidia has sent a box over to the channel free of charge. This one here, this is the old Pro edition, but that is the only relationship I have had with the company. And in fact, I've bought a bunch of these and used them quite a bit, and I can truly and honestly say these are my favorite set-top boxes at the moment for a whole host of reasons. And let me show you why that is. So we'll go into the main menu here so you can see what it looks like. This is running Android, the same operating system that is likely on your tablet or your mobile phone, and in many cases some of the apps you may have purchased on your phone will also show up on here and be playable with the included game controller. So if you have some games on Android, there's a good chance those are going to run on your Nvidia Shield box. I also like the fact that it has most of the major streaming services available to you as well, like YouTube, Amazon Video, which is not always found in many set-top boxes, and Netflix. 4K works on all of those services, and HDR works on them as well if your 4K TV supports that. There's a bunch of other apps out there that this supports too, and it works as a Google Chromecast device, so you can cast things from your mobile phone if it's Google Cast compatible and get them up on your TV pretty easily. And if you got one of those Google Homes, you can even just talk to your Google Home and have it send the stuff to your television. So lots of good stuff in there. Now, I have covered this thing extensively over the last year and a half. I have almost an hour's worth of content on each individual feature, so I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I will tell you what I am currently doing with these boxes so you can get some context, and then I'll link to a playlist down below where you can actually see all of this stuff in more detail. Now, there are 4 different things that I do with these boxes, and in many ways they have replaced a lot of devices that I used to have connected to my televisions because they have enough horsepower to kind of cover all of these functions quite well. So my big thing that I do with these is I use them as home theater boxes, and I have taken Blu Ray movies that I bought on disc and taken the movie data off and put them onto a disk server that I have down here in my basement, and that allows me to stream Blu Ray quality movies complete with lossless audio, DTS HD and Dolby True HD, as well as Dolby Atmos if I had something that could support that, to all of these boxes wherever they are in the house, which is great because I have a 3-year-old daughter. She loves her Disney movies, and I can pull them up anywhere in the house with a push of the button. Yet for me as the dad who likes high quality, I get the Blu Ray quality video and audio on all of those TVs as well. And again, these boxes are fast enough to support that. They all have Ethernet built in on the back. When we go through the hardware, I'll show you some more ports that it has. So really great for movie playback. I also use Plex quite a bit as well, which is another media management application that runs off of a server I have here in the house. That allows me to play media when I'm off site. And these boxes are actually powerful enough to act as the Plex server too. And I've covered all of this stuff in a lot of detail down below in the video description, so you can go through my playlist and see these features kind of expanded upon in full-length videos. But really good stuff for TV watching and multimedia playback. And speaking of TV watching, the second function I use these for is as a cable box. So I have a little tuner called the HDhomerun that sits in my house here. It connects up with my cable system legally, and it allows me to tune live television on all of my Nvidia Shield devices. They also have a DVR product that this interfaces with as well, and I can basically just select a channel that I want to watch, touch, hit the button, and it will work just like a cable box might. It takes a second for it to spin up, and then once it's going, you are ready to go. So live TV, DVR with the HDhomerun. Plex also has a DVR function built into it also, so I have a choice of DVRs that I even wish to use on it as well. So it does things better than a cable box with a lot of different choices. Streaming services is my third big use for it. I do a lot of YouTube watching, as you might expect, so that's a really nice thing. What's really cool about the Nvidia Shield devices is that the game controller has a headphone jack on it, so if you are watching Netflix or YouTube or Amazon Video late at night, you don't want to disturb your spouse or partner next to you, you can plug in headphones, and once the headphones get plugged in, audio goes through that jack and it turns off audio on the television, so you get a private listening experience. You don't disturb those around you, yet you can watch stuff on your big TV. And the fourth thing that I do with this box is play a lot of games on it because it runs Android, and there are a ton of Android games, of course. So you have things like Pac-Man 256 here, but you also have a huge collection of game emulators for older game systems. So this is an example of one of those. This is a Sega Genesis emulator that is running Sonic the Hedgehog right now, but you can get old Atari emulators. You can run the old PlayStation. It can even do some GameCube games as well from the Nintendo GameCube era. So a lot of horsepower inside of this to run modern Android games because it does have an Nvidia GPU essentially inside of it, but it can also do a lot of older games as well. And another cool thing that it can do is stream games over your local network. So if you have a computer with an Nvidia graphics card inside of it, you can stream the games from your computer to the box. So many of those AAA huge titles with the amazing graphics and everything, you can get over to this box by streaming it over your network. And I do, of course, recommend using the Ethernet cable for that. So that is what I am doing with these boxes. They have really replaced a lot of other boxes that were plugged into my TV because these things can do so much. And they really are quite powerful. They have an Nvidia Tegra X1 processor, so it has Nvidia graphics hardware built in along with a pretty beefy 64-bit ARM CPU, 3 gigabytes of RAM built in, and this is the standard edition, which will come with 16 gigabytes of internal flash storage, but you also have some USB available as well. Now this is $199 for the standard edition. They're also going to have a Pro edition. Now in the past, the Pro edition added $100 to the price, so you went from $199 to $299, but the Pro came with 500 gigabytes of storage, an internal spinning hard drive, but the standard edition just lacked that, but was pretty much the same product. Now there's going to be a little bit more of a difference. So the Pro edition, from everything I've seen on their website, looks like it will be the same, which means that you get the 500 gigabyte hard drive for $299, the HDMI out, Ethernet, 2 USB 3.0 ports, a micro USB port, and an SD card, as well as infrared input. The new version of the $199 lacks a lot of that stuff. So now on the back of the more affordable version, you still get the Ethernet and of course the HDMI output, but only 2 USB 3.0 ports and no IR input on this new one. So it really is going to be a lot less feature rich than the old one did, but for the same $199 price tag now, you get the game controller, which came with the prior version, but you also get the remote control. But they have changed a few things on the remote control. So the old remote, which was a $50 add-on in the past, did have the way to do the private listening as well, and it had an internal battery, so you could recharge it and then again plug in headphones and listen to it privately if you wish. The new one here, while it still has voice search functionality and works over radio frequency and not via IR, is no longer rechargeable. It no longer has the headphone jack, and you have batteries that you'll have to replace on it from time to time. Although because it's no longer doing the private listening, I'm not all that concerned about battery life, because that private listening was what really drained the old remote quite a bit. So you do get the remote, but the remote's a little less functional than the old remote was before. Now they did make some pretty big changes to the game controller for the better for the most part, but there are a few things that I'm not too crazy about. So as you can see here, it is a lot smaller than the old one was. At least they took away a lot of plastic, and it actually makes it easier to hold in the hand. So it is actually a lot more comfortable to hold. I like that they really thinned it out here towards the bottom. The other one was starting to feel a bit bulky. And there were components of the old controller that didn't work at all. So this is kind of a holdover from the Nvidia Shield tablet. And on the tablet, you could use this little area as a mouse. It was a little trackpad that clicked, and it never worked on the Shield hardware, at least the TV hardware. So they got rid of that. that and went down to a smaller design. My biggest gripe with the controller is the D-pad here, because this other one was on a rocker, and you can get a better sense of movement, especially when you're running your thumb back and forth on it, than you do on this new one here. But in gameplay, it isn't all that bad. So let me pull up my 2-up screen here, and I'll just unpause my game, and you can see that Sonic here is responding pretty decently, and he's doing what I want him to do. It's just I don't get as much tactile feedback as I had on the old controller, but it's a small gripe. It seems to be working well otherwise, and I really do like the way the controller feels in my hand, especially as compared to the old one. A little bit more of a degree of movement on the thumbsticks here, and they are clickable thumbsticks, and everything lines up quite nicely with what you would normally see on a PC controller, so it's great for playing those PC games as you're streaming. They also got rid of a lot of the capacitive buttons that were on the old controller. So on the old controller, the voice search button here in the middle was capacitive, as were all the Android navigation buttons, and they had a physical button down here for adjusting the volume. Oddly, what they did on the new controller was get rid of all of that capacitive stuff except for the volume. So the volume used to be a set button, and now it's a capacitive slider here on the game controller, and likewise on the remote, which was present on the old version. It was also a capacitive volume control there as well. But all the other buttons have been turned into physical buttons, which is actually a good thing, because I was always accidentally tapping buttons on the old controller. So if you want to go back out to your main menu, you can hit the O button there and get out. You got your play button and your back button here also. So they've replicated all those capacitive controls with physical buttons. And one thing you can do now on the new version of the software is double tap the home button, and now you can very quickly slide back and forth between apps that are already loaded. So that's a new feature of Nougat that will come to the old version of the console too. And one of the things that I like about how the Nvidia Shield controllers work is that they connect to the console via Wi-Fi, so you don't get a lot of latency or lag when you're trying to play games that really require precise movement. So again, very good for emulation, because these are better than Bluetooth controllers. This does work with Bluetooth, so if you have Bluetooth controllers, it'll work with those as well, but the Nvidia controllers really are the way to go. And for the most part, this is, I think, an improvement over the old design, and we'll have to see how I do with this on some of my favorite games over the next couple of weeks with it. Now, one feature that we can't test yet because it's not yet working is the always listening feature of the new controller. So if you saw my review of the Google Home, you know that you can use those Google services like you would Amazon Alexa, where you ask it a question and it answers the question for you. The game controller will function like a Google Home in that it will listen for that trigger word and then have the question answered by your Nvidia Shield console on your television. And if you buy the new game controller and hook it up to your old console, it will also work with the prior edition of the product. And when that is available, we will definitely test it out. Google's got some pretty decent voice search capabilities, and now you can get that on your Nvidia Shield device. They're also going to come out with a little plug that you can stick all over your house to add additional microphones as well. So for those of you that are comfortable with that, great. Other folks might feel a little nervous about it, but that is a feature of the new game controller that is not going to be available on the old ones. If you buy the new controller, you can gain that Google Home functionality. So that is pretty much it for the new product here. Otherwise, it is the same box that I have grown to love quite a bit, and it still functions great. And one of the things that I've been really happy with over the last year and a half of owning this product is just how good Nvidia has been listening to owners of the product and adding features. So many of the things that I do, those 4 main tent poles that I use this device for, have either didn't exist when I first got the product or improved dramatically since I purchased it, because they were listening to folks and added in a lot of features via firmware updates that made it a better product. Now, if you are an enthusiast and you can still get the old version of the $199 product, go for it, because again, the new one does not have the SD card slot or the micro USB slot on it. So you lose some functionality that you can still gain while not losing anything, because these really do perform the same. So remember, the standard edition, the $199 product, will only have these 2 USB ports plus its 16 gigabytes of internal storage. The Pro edition, again, will have the 500 gig hard drive and all the ports here, along with the IR in, which is now lacking on the standard edition. So there are some reasons perhaps to look for the old one if you can get it as an enthusiast, or wait a little bit for the Pro Edition. The Pro Edition, by the way, will come with the controller as well as the remote control, but the remote control will not have the headphone jack on it. So that will do it for the Nvidia Shield for now. Well, of course, we'll be doing a lot more with this over the next couple of months, and if you are new to the product, definitely check out my playlist down below where I detail all the features in detail so you can get a good feel as to how this product will work for you. Even though we're using the old one in those videos, it's still the same exact performance on the new one here. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.